You know, we click, type, and create on these machines every single day. But have you ever just stopped and wondered what's actually going on inside that box? Today, we're going to peel back the cover and demystify the physical heart of your computer. We'll break down the core hardware that makes everything you do possible. So yeah, when you look at your laptop or your desktop, you see the obvious stuff, right? A screen, a keyboard. But the real magic, the speed, the power, the thing that lets you run your favorite apps or games, that's all happening on the inside. And it's not magic at all. It's this incredible system of physical parts all working together. And all that physical stuff, the parts you can actually hold in your hand, that has a name, hardware. A great way to think about it is like this. If software is the script for a play, then the hardware is the actual stage, the actors, the lights. It's everything that brings that script to life. You really can't have one without the other. And look, this isn't just trivia for tech nerds. Understanding your hardware puts you in the driver's seat. It's what decides how fast your computer runs, it's your #1 clue when you're trying to figure out why something's not working, and it's what lets you make smart upgrades to make an old machine feel new again. Okay, so where do we even begin? We're going to start with the absolute heart of the system, what I like to call the core performance trio. These next 3 components are pretty much the engine of your computer. They define its speed and its power. Everything else just builds on top of them. First up is the CPU, the central processing unit. Honestly, the best way to think about this is as the brain of the whole operation. Every single click, every command, every calculation, it all gets processed right here. The faster the CPU, the more it can think through at once, making your whole experience snappier. Next, we have RAM, which stands for Random Access Memory. Now, if the CPU is the brain, think of RAM as its personal workbench. It's a super fast but temporary space where the computer keeps all the apps and files it's working on right now. The more RAM you have, the bigger your workbench is, and the more things you can do at once without getting bogged down. And this brings us to something that trips a lot of people up. What's the difference between RAM and storage? Well, think about that workbench. RAM is fast and ready, but it's volatile. It gets cleared out completely when you turn the power off. Storage, that's your hard drive or SSD, is like a giant library. It holds everything for the long term, even when the computer is off, but it's a bit slower to access. That balance is key. Alright, so we've got a brain and a workbench. Awesome. But how do they actually talk? How do they communicate with each other and all the other parts? Well, that brings us to the computer's central nervous system. And at the center of that nervous system is this, the motherboard. It's basically a giant circuit board that acts as the foundation for your entire computer. Your CPU, your RAM, your graphics card, literally everything plugs into it. It's the central hub that connects all these different parts so they can work together as one machine. And how does all that data get around on the motherboard? It travels on things called buses. Just picture them as these super fast, multi-lane data highways etched right onto the board. These pathways are what let the CPU and RAM send billions of pieces of information back and forth every single second. So, all this amazing stuff is happening inside the box at mind-boggling speeds. But how do we get in on the conversation? This next part is all about the hardware that acts as the bridge between us, the humans, and the computer's core. First, we've got input devices. These are the tools we use to send our commands into the computer. You know them well, the keyboard, the mouse, but it also includes things like a touchscreen, a microphone for your voice, or a webcam for video. They're our way of talking to the machine. And then, after the computer processes what we've told it to do, it needs a way to talk back to us. That's the job of output devices. Your monitor shows you what's happening. Your speakers give you sound. A printer gives you a physical copy. This is how the computer shows us the result of its work. Okay, that's a lot of theory, but let's make this real. We can actually apply all this right now by taking a quick peek under the hood of the very device you're using to watch this. It's actually way easier than you think to find your computer's DNA. If you're on a Windows machine, just search for system information, and if you're on a Mac, go to About This Mac. Right there, you'll be able to see exactly which CPU you have, how much RAM is installed, and your total storage. Seriously, go take a look after this. And this is really why it all matters. In a world that runs on technology, knowing these basics isn't just for IT professionals. It builds your confidence, it helps you solve your own problems, and it gives you a skill set that is just incredibly valuable no matter what your career is. So I'll leave you with a final question to think about. Now that you know the roles of the CPU, RAM, and storage, take a look at your own machine specs. If you could only upgrade one of them to better fit what you do, whether that's gaming, work, or just browsing, which one would you pick, and why? Answering that question is the first step to really being in control of your tech.